Great to see you. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. I'm sure you've not had much sleep overnight, crunching all these numbers. But given that Wandsworth's, we're just hearing, second lowest council tax in the country, Westminster lowest council tax in the country, they've both gone Labour. It's not about the cost of living, is it? So what's it about?
Well, of course, we've had some difficult results, and you've seen that in those places in London. I would say, though, actually, if you look across the country, we've made gains in places like Hartlepool, we've made them in Thurrock, we've made them in Nuneaton. And actually, given that we're mid-term, I think it really doesn't show that Labour have the momentum to form the next government. But inevitably, mid-term, we are going to have challenges like this.
What's it down to that you've lost these two prime council seats in the capital, including the Palace of Westminster is in Westminster Council? Well,
I think it's worth looking at the two of them. So first of all, in relation to Wandsworth, we only won that by about 200 votes last time round. It was an unexpected hold. There is a general momentum across London, which you've seen here, and you saw actually in the past 20 years' worth of elections in Wandsworth of us doing less well. But of course, as John said in his intro to this piece, there have been challenging headlines for the past few months. But I do think that set against all of that, those sort of challenges that you would expect after 12 years in office, these are challenging results, but we have made progress in lots of places. So it has to be viewed in that context.
OK, this is what the outgoing leader of Wandsworth Council said.
Yes, it did come up. I'm not denying that didn't come up. I mean, the Mr. Parish's watching of television, of porn on his phone came up several times. I think there were a number of people picking up different things that they were concerned about, and that came up on the doorstep.
Partygate, Tractorgate.
Yes, well, of course, there have been lots of difficult headlines for the past few months. And I suppose, Kay, that's the point that I'm making, that if you set these results against those difficult headlines, and if you set them against the fact that we've been in power for the past 12 years, we're really not seeing the kind of results. Say you saw 2 years before 97, that Blair victory, that was 1,800 seats worth of gains for the Labour Party. William Hague, I think, gained about 1,300 in 2000 and then went on to lose the 2001 election. So I, of course, accept that these are challenging times and there have been some difficult results. However, I do not accept that Labour have the momentum to form the next government. Of course, we now, in response to that as a government, need to make sure that we really focus not on those kind of headlines in the way that the leader was describing, but on what matters to people, whether that is tackling the cost of living, whether that's clearing those NHS backlogs, or taking advantage of the opportunities given us by leaving the European Union.
Or perhaps getting rid of the leader. I mean, you've got 3 MPs, I think, in the Cumbria-Carlisle area, and this is what the leader of Carlisle Council has had to say.
I've never been a fan of Boris Johnson anyway. I've never made any great secret of that fact. And I think he should consider his position now. I fully expect that there will be more letters to the chairman of the 22 committee.
Yeah, Labour have won the new Council of Cumberland, which will take in Carlisle.
But
down to the boss again.
Well, I think... And I have great respect for him, but he himself admitted that he was never the biggest fan of the Prime Minister. Actually, I think that what you see in the Prime Minister is somebody who gets things done, a change maker, and whether that's in relation to the vaccine programme, fastest vaccine rollout 3 times over, or what he's been doing in Ukraine. We need that kind of bold leadership. And I think precisely at a time when we're facing these big challenges, whether it's cost of living, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's the economic situation around the world that you heard, in the past 24 hours, I think we need somebody that can really grip things and deliver that change. And I think that's what we've got in Boris Johnson.
Well, the leader of the Conservatives in Scotland, of course, didn't agree. This is what he said previously. I think what we've seen over the last few days is more and more MPs publicly saying they take a similar position to me, and there's a feeling that we're getting closer and closer to the 54 number of letters required to go into the 1922 committee. He said that back in January. He was pressurised. He subsequently retracted that. But that's one of your own, saying he's not the right man for the job.
Well, I've actually, obviously, as you might imagine, I was campaigning up in Scotland, and I met with Douglas while I was up there. And as you say, that's not his view now. And I think he accepts, as indeed most people that I spoke to, touring the length and breadth of the country, They recognise what Boris Johnson has done during this Ukraine crisis, the kind of leadership he's shown. They recognise actually the leadership that he showed during the COVID crisis with driving that vaccine rollout. Of course, people remember that he delivered Brexit as he promised. And that's the kind of focus and energy that we need. And I think that's what he brings.
I'm glad you brought Brexit up, because where are we going to be in Northern Ireland? They start counting in about 45 minutes' time or something like that. If Sinn Féin takes power, we could find ourselves in a position where Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister who oversees the breakup of the Union.
Well, first of all, let's wait and see what the results are from Northern Ireland.
That's what all the projections
and, well, I hope you appreciate that we will know that in 24 hours. You rightly highlight the provisions of the peace agreements there, which do provide that if there is a sustained majority nationalist opinion in favour of United Ireland, that would have to be put forward in a referendum. That's kind of beyond the power of the United Kingdom government. In that sense, we'd have to allow that to happen were it the case. But let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah, let's just remind our viewers what it actually says, the Northern Ireland Agreement. A crucial component too was the provision for a border poll committing both governments in an internationally binding agreement to legislate for reunification if a simple majority of Northern Ireland's electorate voted in favour. That could be a reality if Sinn Féin wins. That must make Boris Johnson's blood run cold this morning.
Well, Boris Johnson is, as I am, and the entire cabinet, we're passionate unionists, and we believe in the value of Northern Ireland as part of our United Kingdom. Of course, we would honour the provisions of the Good Friday Agreement if that was required, but I'm confident that we will be able to make the case for Northern Ireland remaining in the United Kingdom should that arise. But I don't think we're at that stage yet, so let's not get ahead of ourselves.
12 hours.
Well, let's wait and see.
George Eustace sat just where you are earlier on this week and said that the British government would step in to prevent that happening. That's not going to happen, is it? If indeed Sinn Féin wins and we do press towards a border referendum, the British government would allow that to happen, wouldn't they?
Well, the British government will respect its treaty obligations, including in the Good Friday Agreement, but I don't think we're anywhere near that stage.
So George Eustace misspoke when he said that earlier in the week.
Well, I'm afraid I didn't hear exactly what George Eustace said, but I'm very clear that we will respect our international obligations. But as I say, I don't think we are close to invoking the provisions of that.
Yeah, as I said, let me put that to you again. This Prime Minister could be the Prime Minister that oversees the splitting up of the Union. If that were to happen with Northern Ireland, all eyes would be towards Scotland.
Well, Kay, I think you're jumping many steps ahead here.
Not
So
really.
first of all, we don't know the results in Northern Ireland. And in any event, we have the provisions of that treaty. I'm absolutely confident that the people of Northern Ireland, as has been shown on many occasions before, would choose to remain within the United Kingdom. So I don't actually think that eventuality will arise.
Well, we'll see. As you said, whatever happens in the next 12 hours, even if Sinn Féin does win in Northern Ireland, we see what happens in Wales and also up in Scotland, where you're not likely to do very well. Whatever happens, you still feel that Boris Johnson is the right man to lead your party?
Well, I think looking at the picture of the results so far, they demonstrate that whilst there have been difficult results, they are consistent with what you'd expect with us from mid-term. Labour are certainly not on the path to power, and I believe that Boris Johnson does have the leadership skills, in particular the energy and the dynamism that we need during this difficult period of time. So no, I don't think we should remove Boris Johnson as our Prime Minister. I think we should stick with him. I think he's got the skills we need to lead us into the next election.
OK, what happens if it transpires in the coming weeks, which it's likely to, that he's broken the law on more than one occasion and as a result has misled Parliament? Would he still be the right man for the job?
Well, may I take each one of those in turn, Kate? First of all, you'll expect me to say this, but I'll have to say it, which is I'm not going to indulge in hypotheticals. It's right, as a Cabinet Minister, I allow the police to do their job. I don't actually believe that he misled Parliament. I think he gave a very clear explanation of that, and what he said at the time in Parliament, he genuinely believed to be the case. And I think taking into account all of these things, and by the way, I've been clear on this show and many others, I don't for a moment resile from my anger and frustration about what happened in Downing Street. And I think the Prime Minister has rightly shown remorse over that, and he feels a frustration about it as well. I have accepted what he said in respect to that because I believe that we need to balance that against his considerable achievements, which I've already outlined to you, and the need for the energy and dynamism to lead this country forward, and I believe that he has that.
Do you want my viewers who are watching this morning to honestly believe that this man presided over the biggest rule breaking in the whole of the country in one street, and he didn't know what was happening under his own roof? Because obviously the electorate doesn't think that.
Well, first of all, I think that the Prime Minister has given an explanation of that, and there's not a great deal that I can add to it. I thought it was a very clear explanation. I think many of your viewers, and I certainly found this when I was speaking to people, do recognise and acknowledge the considerable achievements of the United Kingdom government led by Boris Johnson in getting the vaccine programme.
Just illustrated to you that's not the case.
I think you'll also see that if you look, for example, at the decision that we took to keep the economy open. I remember in the run-up to Christmas, Starmer, Drakeford, Sturgeon, many elements of the media, I should say actually not Sky News, were demanding that we shut the economy back down. The Prime Minister made the very difficult call to keep the economy open, which means we have unemployment falling, we have strong growth, and I think people recognise those things. Now, Kay, you talk about the results, and I have accepted that there are difficult results in London, but I do think that those are more consistent with what you would expect from a government in mid-term, in a battleground that is dominated by urban areas that tend to favour the Labour Party. And those results, as disappointed as I genuinely am that we've lost excellent public servants in both of those councils and elsewhere, I think that those are consistent with trends that you have seen previously and not consistent with the kind of change of government that you see elsewhere.
Mr Party Chairman, we're almost out of time. I've illustrated to you in some detail why, when you have lost seats that you would have thought that you wouldn't lose, boroughs in London, Westminster Council, cheapest council tax in the whole of the country, they said it's because of Boris Johnson. I've illustrated to you that Boris Johnson could be the Prime Minister that oversees the breakup of the Union. I've illustrated to you that he could undoubtedly find himself in a position where he's going to get more fines from the Metropolitan Police. They gave him the courtesy of waiting until after the election before they issued more fines. And you're still sitting there and telling our viewers this morning, this man can do no wrong.
I'm not saying that this man can do no wrong, and I've accepted the considerable mistakes that were made in Downing Street, but I've also accepted the explanation that he's given. I've highlighted the considerable achievements he's had, whether that's with the vaccine programme, whether that's leading the world in the democratic world's response to the Ukraine crisis, or whether that's in respect of getting Brexit done. And I think when those things are considered in the balance, the right thing is that as people are worried about these challenges caused by the dual global challenges of both recovering from COVID and the pressure on inflation, Ukraine crisis, both national security and the economy. We need strong and clear leadership, and I think that Boris Johnson delivers that.
OK, it's good to talk to you. I must let you go. A busy round of media chats this morning for you. Thank you for joining us on the programme, Mr Chairman. Thank you.